You all quieted so nicely. Thank you. Good morning. My name is Martha Childs. I am a member of the Standing Committee, also a worship associate today. And I am here to welcome you to our second to last service of the year. Doesn't seem possible. It's great to be here. It's wonderful to see you all in person and everybody out there. Let's see. So here we are. We're back with in almost green, which means masked singing, and I heard the rehearsal this morning, a full choir, which is wonderful. Community Matters today. There's a reminder about the Writing for the Environment and Democracy effort that's ongoing. Some interesting ideas on how to improve the audio for Zoom cameras. So if you're watching online, be sure to check the Community Matters because it has some good suggestions to how to improve the quality of the audio. And a very interesting article on our Share the Plate, Bike Connection. This is a Share the Plate Sunday. Very interesting article on what they're doing. So here we are, and I forgot to take my mask off. The one time I got to take it off. Okay, so here we go. Welcome to church.
Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide, feels them give way beneath her, and sings and sings and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide, feels them give way beneath her, and sings and sings and sings, knowing she hath wings. Be like the bird that, pausing in her flight, a while on boughs to slide, feels them give way beneath her, and sings and sings and sings, knowing she hath wings.
May the drag stage rise to meet you. May the world rise to accept and embrace you. May the rainbow of love enfold you. May your fluidity never be hindered. May your pronouns always be supported and your dead name forgotten. May those you invite into your life remain loyal. May your chosen family lift you up and catch you when you need it. May you be able to catch others when they need it. May you remember sensitivity is not weakness, but instead a great strength welling up inside you. And until we meet again, may you remember you are loved and you are divine. The words of Cricket Hall. Let us worship. I'd like to invite Fergus to come up and light our chalice this morning. And as Fergus lights the chalice, please say with me the words of our covenant. Love is the spirit of this church, and service its law. This is our great covenant, to dwell together in peace, to seek the truth in love, and to help one another. Good morning.
Good morning.
I join with Martha in welcoming you to First Church Unitarian here in Littleton, Massachusetts. My name is Lara Hoke, and I'm so happy and so lucky to be the minister serving this incredible congregation. If you are new with us this morning, here for the first time, whether here in person or whether you are joining us online on Zoom or YouTube Live, we welcome you and are so glad that you found us this morning. And we hope that you won't be shy if you have questions after the service about this church or Unitarian Universalism. You can either ask one of us after the service if you're here in person or online. You can always go to our website, fculittle.org, find lots of information there, and you can find ways to contact us too, if you wish. So this morning is a special service. It is an auction sermon topic, just in time for LGBTQ plus Pride. So I'm happy about that. And just a couple of reminders for things that didn't come up earlier. One is that this coming Saturday is the memorial service for Pat Hadley, longtime pillar of this church, and that will be this coming Saturday at 11 a.m. And it will be here in person and also streaming, so know that you have those options. And next Sunday, our last regular worship service of the year is also, in addition to appreciations and the Keeper of the Flame presentation, it's flower communion. So find a lovely flower for us next Sunday. All right. So one of the great joys of being in almost green light is that we can sing. So we have our opening hymn, which was written by a former minister of this very church, Fred Small, and it's hymn number 1019 in the blue hymnal, Everything Possible. I invite you to rise in body or spirit. be seated.
All right, can you hear me? No. Is it on? Hello? It's not on. Still not on. You're going to have to look up for the pictures, okay? Okay, let's do that. I can hold that. All right, guys. Now you can hear me. So the pictures are going to come up there today, okay? This story I'm reading, I just wanted to share that I have a little friend. She's about 8 now. And this story reminded me of her. Her name is Rose. But this book is called I Am Jazz by Jessica Herthel and Jazz Jennings. Is it working? It's getting there. No? I Am Jazz. Okay, next page. For as long as I can remember, my favorite color has been pink. My second favorite color is silver, and my third favorite color is green. Here are some of my other favorite things: dancing, singing, backflips, drawing, soccer, swimming, makeup, pretending I'm a rock star. Most of all, I love mermaids. Sometimes I even wear a mermaid tail in the pool. My best friends are Samantha and Casey. We always have fun together. We like high heels and princess gowns and cartwheels and trampolines. But I'm not exactly like Samantha and Casey. I have a brain, a girl brain, and a boy body. This is called transgender. I was born this way. When I was very little, Mom would say, "You're such a good boy." And I would say, "No, Mama, good girl." At first, my family was confused. They'd always thought of me as a boy. As I got older, I hardly ever played with trucks or tools or superheroes, only princesses and mermaid costumes. My brothers told me this was girl stuff. I kept right on playing. My sister says I was always talking to her about my girl thoughts, my girl dreams, and how one day I would be a beautiful lady. And she would giggle and say, "You're a funny kid." Sometimes my parents would let me wear my sister's dresses around the house. But whenever we went out, I had to put on my boy clothes again. This made me mad. Still, I never gave up trying to convince them. Pretending I was a boy felt like I was lying. Then one amazing day, something changed. Mom and Dad took me to meet a new doctor who asked me lots and lots of questions. Afterwards, this doctor spoke to my parents, and I heard the word transgender for the first time. That night at bedtime, both my parents hugged me and said, "We understand now. Be who you are. We love you no matter what." This made me smile and smile and smile. Mom and Dad told me I could start wearing girl clothes to school and growing my hair long. They even let me change my name to Jazz. Being Jazz felt so much more like being me. Mom said that being Jazz would make me different from the other kids at school, but that being different was okay. What's important, she said, is that I'm happy with who I am. Oh, I lost my place. Being jazz caused some of the other people to be confused too, like teachers at school. At the beginning of the year, they wanted me to use the boys' bathroom and play on the boys' team and gym, but that didn't feel normal at all. I was so happy when the teachers changed their minds. I can't imagine not being on the same team as Casey and Samantha. Even today, there are kids who tease me or call me by boy names or ignore me altogether. This makes me feel crummy. And then I remember that the kids who get to know me usually want to be my friend, and they say I'm one of the nicest girls at school. I don't mind being different. Different is special. I think what matters most is what a person is like inside. And inside, I'm happy, I'm having fun, I'm proud. I am jazz. Thank you.
We're doing the anthem first.
I've heard it said that people come into our lives for a reason, bringing something we must learn, and we are led to those who help us most to grow if we let them, and we help
This is a Share the Plate Sunday, and everything that comes into our collection plate in the form of cash or checks made out to today's recipient will go directly to the recipient. And it's a wonderful organization that you'll hear about. So I'm going to invite up Patty Grasso to tell us about the Bike Connector.
I'm going to take this off now because I think it'll be a little easier to hear me. Well, this is very exciting. Thank you so much for inviting the Bike Connector here on Sunday. My name is Patty Grasso. I'm a board member. We have a really simple mission statement at the Bike Connector. It is to get bikes to people who need them. We're located in downtown Lowell, about a block from the high school. And we serve a variety of people. You can see some shots of our shop, and you'll see some more pictures of people who come in for bikes. It's an all-volunteer organization. All the bikes are donated. We get them from DPWs, from friends and families, from the side of the road. And our main expenses are the rent, the insurance, and of course spare parts, accessories that we need to provide. It began as an Earn a Bike program. There have these programs throughout the US. There's other organizations in Massachusetts that do this as well. And the idea is that someone comes in, picks a donated bike, works on it with a mechanic, and then gets to keep it. So they learn some skills, they learn a little more confidence, and then they have reliable transportation, which is a real need in the Lowell area. It was started at one school about 4 years ago. Wade Rubenstein is our founder. He set up a workshop, worked with a teacher, and started providing bikes. Then COVID hit, and of course we couldn't work in the schools anymore, so we had to rethink ourselves. And for us, it was a great opportunity. We formed a 501(c)(3), we started to fundraise, and we found space in Lowell to work. We were able to open our doors just a year ago in May. And to give you an idea, we went from 5 or 6 bikes a month to 50. This year we're running at about 100 a month that we distribute. Most at no charge, although we do get donations. People do pay as they can when it comes to a bike. So primarily we are working with Earn a Bike programs, and mostly the middle school and high school kids. We're right a block from the high school. They come in, pick bikes. We have a very large shop, 6,000 square feet, almost 700 bikes right now to choose from. And basically, it's been word of mouth. We do work with the Lowell school system, and we've been able to provide some new programs for education, bike safety. We've distributed about 100 bikes in the past 2 months to middle school kids. They get to work with a trainer for the safe routes to school and learn some different skills, as well as get a bike and a helmet. We make sure that every kid gets a helmet, and most of the adults that come in as well, we have helmets for them. So our goal, we started off the year thinking, oh, this would be great if we did 600 bikes. Last year we did about 350. Of course, by the end of the month, we'll hit 600 bikes. So I think we'll be well over 1,000. And one of the things that changes is different people come in. As you can see from the pictures, all kinds of bikes, all kinds of people. Our big need starting the year was the evacuees from Afghanistan. They came into Lowell. There's 3 locations for the International Institute of New England, and one of them is Lowell. People come into the United States with really nothing, and you have no ability to drive, you have no money to get a car, you don't have a driver's license, you don't speak enough English usually to get the driver's license. So they came in for bikes. So we've distributed more than 70 bikes through various organizations in Lowell and outside of Lowell to people from Afghanistan. So we've worked with churches, different resettlement groups, and we partner with many other organizations in Lowell. So we have the Coalition for Better Acre, Elevate, which mentors young students, the Boys and Girls Club, Catholic Charities. We worked with a group called I Can Shine recently for kids who are differently abled, who need special bikes in order to learn how to ride a bike. So it really is a wide variety of people. So our goals going forward, we are trying to raise $90,000 this year, about double what we raised last year. So everything today is really a big help towards that. We want to expand our network of partners. We're very good with the Lowell school system and immigrants and new arrivals to the United States. We'd like to work more with young adults in the Lowell area who are looking for low-cost transportation. We have a lot of classic bikes that would appeal to them that really don't appeal to the high school kids. They all seem to want to have a mountain bike. So we always need those. And we would like to recruit more volunteers. So in addition to money, we need volunteers. We have a core of 20 or 30 volunteers who really run everything. We would love to have some more. Anybody who wants to work with a bike, who wants to work with kids, who wants to learn about working on a bike. We really have many different needs for either one-time events or working regularly at the shop. As you can see, one of our big pushes this year was the preschool bikes. You can imagine when you're in a position to say we accept any bike, you're going to get a lot of small bikes. Kids grow out of them quickly. And one of our goals is to reduce waste. You want to reuse, recycle. There's no reason to buy a new bike every year for a kid who's just going to grow out of it. So we've been hosting giveaways at different schools to an entire pre-kindergarten class or a kindergarten class, and have parents come in and select bikes with their kids. And that's been, it's been very nice to get more involvement from the parents. And in the future, as we get more organized, we are new, as I said, we've only been an organization for about a year and a half, is to be able to train the students who come in to become mechanics. And we would then hire them. We want to create jobs in the Lowell area. They could work after school fixing bikes, and then the volunteers would be more dedicated to other activities rather than working on the bikes. And I'll be here after the service if anyone wants to ask me more questions. And I just really want to thank you for this opportunity. Emily Welch was the one who had first suggested it over a year ago. I know she's not here today, but a special thank you to Emily. And thank you whoever put a pedestal down there, because I really did need it. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. This morning's offering will now be given and received in grateful appreciation. And I should have said, for those of you online, if you wish to make a donation, you can do so. Go to thebikeconnector.org and you'll find a donate button there. Sorry, say it again? Oh, okay. Bikeconnector.org, know thee. Thank you. All right, please join with me in the words of our response. We are grateful for the opportunity to give and serve, and grateful for the gifts we have received. May this affirm the ministries of our church community, both within and beyond these walls. Most weeks, we share a time to talk together about those things that connect us to one another and to that which we consider holy. And it's in this spirit that we share in the candles of caring. If you have a very special joy or concern that you would like to share this morning, you're invited to do so. If you're here in the sanctuary, we ask that you lift your hand high enough that we can see it, and we'll come around to you with a microphone and light a candle for you up front. If you are on Zoom, we ask that you find your hand raise function in Zoom, either in the reactions area or the participants area, and you will be called on in turn, and we'll light a candle for you as well. Are there any candles of caring this morning? Once again, we have come together in love and trust, sharing those cares dearest to us with this gathered, beloved community. Let us hold in our hearts and thoughts and our prayers those joys and concerns that were spoken aloud this morning, as well as those that remain unspoken, as we share together in a time of sacred silence. Amen, and blessed be. LGBTQ rights and overall acceptance have certainly come a long, long way in a relatively short time. Some of you who are older than I am have seen attitudes towards lesbian, gay, bisexual, transgender, and queer-identified folks come even farther. Living in Massachusetts in the 21st century, especially for those of us who live in a little bit of a progressive bubble, it's easy to forget how different things used to be, really not so very long ago. I'm grateful for today's auction sermon topic because it helped me personally to digest some things that I don't think about as often these days. The topic is, what impact does it have on one's spirit to grow up and go through life LGBTQ+? And admittedly, my view this morning is based largely on my own experience and the experiences of those I have known well, and it might speak a little more to the impact of growing up and going through life lesbian or gay than the other letters of the LGBTQ+ alphabet, though there is definitely crossover in those other areas as well. In about 10 days' time, it will be the Unitarian Universalist General Assembly, which is the annual business meeting of the Unitarian Universalist Association. And that's one of those times that I actually do think about the impact of growing up and going through life as a lesbian, because at General Assembly, when we have debate discussion and people line up to debate or discuss, we use what is called the diversity stack. And so that is that those people who have marginalized identities move to the front of the discussion line. I think this is an excellent practice, especially in a large body of people, because it means that those marginalized voices that often don't get heard are definitely going to be heard, and they're less likely to be lost. Among the identities that move up in the discussion line at UU General Assembly are handicapped people, people of color, transgender, non-binary folk. Gay, lesbian, and bisexual people are not considered marginalized because in a 21st century Unitarian Universalist context, we're not really marginalized. Happily, I can say that that's basically true. I don't feel that being a lesbian works against me in a 21st century Unitarian Universalist context, which is actually pretty amazing. So in the context of the diversity stack, I'm completely in agreement that the LGB folks don't really qualify as marginalized in the same way that transgender non-binary people do. Trans and non-binary folk are still less well known, less well understood, even in many progressive spaces. And we have farther to go, I believe, here on that learning curve as well. We still trip up sometimes over the language or the pronouns or more. Because of that, I really want us to complete the Welcoming Congregation follow-up program next church year. I was hoping to do it this church year, but it all depends on the pandemic because it really needs to be done in person. It would go a long way toward helping us get where we should be on trans and non-binary issues and knowledge to be even more welcoming. But I bring up this issue of LGB people, lesbian, gay, bisexual people, no longer being oppressed in this 21st century progressive context for a reason. I bring it up because in these progressive spaces, including FCU, it's all too easy to forget that most LGBTQ people, you know, have some trauma from growing up and or going through life in that way. And that trauma does stay with you. So the present is so much better than the past in terms of where we are with acceptance and rights. But it doesn't mean that we are unscathed. Sometimes in progressive spaces, I feel that this can be almost lost or forgotten. Sometimes heterosexual and cisgender meaning not transgender, feeling that you are the gender, the sex you were assigned at birth and being comfortable in that traditional way. Sometimes heterosexual and cisgender people act and talk as though they never ever had any issue whatsoever with LGBTQ people. Act as though they were always totally comfortable with it. Act as though they always thought that being LGBTQ was just as good as being straight and cisgender. And I have to be honest, this is very, very hard to believe. Because I grew up in a liberal family, going to a liberal UU church, and yet growing up, I did not have the sense that it was okay. It was clearly not okay. It was clearly not just as good. I'm definitely not pointing the finger at my family or my church, who were head and shoulders above the crowd. I was one of the very lucky ones, and yet, I kept my sexual orientation inklings as a teenager very, very much to myself. I kept it private because I knew it really wasn't okay. I kept it to myself because I knew it was a problem. I kept it to myself because, honestly, I hoped it would go away. I hoped it would go away because being LGB was clearly not any kind of way to go through life. I wanted to be normal, and being lesbian was not normal. I wanted to pay for college with an ROTC scholarship, and you were not fit for service if you were LGBTQ. You just weren't a normal, fit person, period. That's the message I got all around me from the culture. And I think for anyone my age, Generation X or older, that was the message society gave us, again and again. Not okay, not normal, not fit. When I was a young teen, the HIV/AIDS crisis began, and it was known in the press and by many as the gay disease. It was clear that the Reagan administration, an administration which was so admired in my hometown, had no intention of helping those with the disease, no real intention of working on a cure. And even as a teen, it seemed obvious to me that it was because many felt that LGBTQ people were expendable. Conventional wisdom all too often seemed to be that gay and bisexual men were promiscuous and having a sinful type of sex, and that death was somehow acceptable, maybe even a punishment. A staggering number of gay and bisexual men did die, as you know, and the government did so very little to intervene. I can't fathom the trauma that gay and bisexual men must have faced and felt during that time. That kind of trauma stays with you. One of the challenges for LGBTQ folks growing up is that more often than not, your family of origin isn't LGBTQ. So if you grow up in many oppressed groups, not all, but many, for instance, if you are Black or you're Jewish, then your immediate family, or at least part of it, is part of that same oppressed group. And they can help to build you up. They can let you know that it's good to be part of that group, not bad. They can give you survival strategies and wisdom for getting by in the world as part of that group. But growing up LGBTQ is often a very lonely, secret experience. Today, happily, well-intentioned parents can help their LGBTQ kid find resources and information and find others like them. But in the past, it usually just remained a lonely secret. And even if you had the courage to tell your parents in my time or earlier, and even if they were accepting, there would have been only so much they could do to help you with resources and information because it just really wasn't out there in the same way. And of course, some LGBTQ folks aren't lucky enough to have well-intentioned parents or close family. Some faced, and some to this day, it's easy to forget living in this part of the country, although it happens even here to this day, that some are even kicked out of their home or disowned by their family of origin when they come out or are found out. Again, I can only imagine how traumatic that must be. For those of us who are older, there weren't really public examples of LGBTQ folks. Very, very few examples. There were almost no famous role models. When I was a kid, even people who strike me as obvious now, like Martina Navratilova and Elton John, were calling themselves bisexual. It was very confusing. But there were really no out adults in my life, period. Or they certainly weren't known to me. Personally, that was one of the things that helped me to stay in denial longer. Being LGBTQ seemed like being a unicorn. It seemed so incredibly rare that I found it hard to believe that something so unfortunate could have befallen me, who I thought was pretty normal otherwise. I had to believe I would outgrow it. And what little information I found in those days mostly talked about it as something you would probably outgrow. So being LGBTQ was often a big secret, and it often involved telling lies, even to yourself. If nothing else, it involved lies of omission. It was necessary for survival in many contexts to lie. It still is in some contexts, if only by omission. But it does something to you deep down to have such a profound secret about something that's at the core of who you are. It does something to you to lie so frequently, even sometimes to people who are very close to you. For those in the millennial generation, like my stepchildren, the big thing at school was to get people to stop saying, "That's so gay," which became a big phrase. And it meant essentially, that's so stupid, or that's so pathetic, or what have you. The good news is there was often education involved for that younger generation. Teachers and adults would often correct other kids for saying "that's so gay" by reminding them that gay isn't the same as bad and shouldn't be used that way. When I was going through school, the big insult was to call everyone you didn't like the F word that rhymes with maggot. It was the ultimate insult, and it was meant in an extremely ugly way. And when that F word was thrown around in the hallways, I do remember the teachers would break up the fighting and the name calling, but I never once personally heard a teacher say something corrective like, "You shouldn't use the F word because it's a derogatory word for gay, and there's nothing wrong with being gay." And in a way, I get it, because I'm sure many of the parents in that day would have objected strongly to a teacher telling a kid, "There's nothing wrong with being gay." Then there are some issues that are really gender issues. Some LGB people, lesbian, gay, bisexual people, are cisgender, but many of us have some gender differences. There's certainly crossover and correlation. The tomboyish or butch lesbians, the gay men that you might call queens or fae. Many of us stood out gender-wise before we had any real inkling about our sexual orientation. And of course, this is true for a lot of trans and non-binary people too. And here, the so-called sissy boys probably had it harder in most cases than the tomboyish girls for lots of reasons, including basic sexism. But so-called sissy boys were often traumatized with taunting, sometimes physical violence. Same thing, but often less vicious for tomboys. And that too leaves a mark. How could it not? Anyone who was bullied growing up carries some psychic scars from the experience. Honestly, there's much more I could say about the trauma involved in growing up and going through life as LGBTQ. There's certainly more than I could cover in the length of a sermon. But my hope is that you've been reminded that there is at least some history of trauma for just about any LGBTQ person you meet. Even for those like me who are really pretty lucky, even for those like me who have a career and a personal life where I'm able to be out, where being LGBTQ is not presently an issue for me in a negative way. It's a reminder that LGBTQ people never stop fearing that hard-fought rights will be taken away. And I don't want your pity. I don't think any of us want your pity. We just want understanding. And we want you, like us, to hold the true, realistic memory of how it really was, not a fantasy revision of the past. I know, and I'm not proud of it, I know that I personally said and thought homophobic things growing up. And yes, a lot of that was internalized homophobia for me. But I hope you, whether you're LGBTQ or not, can be honest with yourself about homophobic thoughts that you had, or perhaps think back and remember, even if it's hard, some of the things you said or did that were a bit homophobic. Not to beat yourself up, but just to be real. Even if it was mild, which I'm guessing for a lot of us it was pretty mild. Because when the hard reality is ignored or whitewashed, many of us LGBTQ folk feel almost gaslit. It's better to acknowledge it, if only to yourself, and not to feel guilt, but to feel pride that now you know better and now you do better. You've come a long way, I betcha. I know I have. So let's celebrate how far we've come in our thinking, in our actions, our beliefs, and let's keep growing. Let's learn what we need to about transgender, non-binary issues. Let's think about any transphobia we might still be harboring, even if subtle, and let's keep growing. It's hard to fix problems and problematic thinking that you don't first acknowledge. But it is LGBTQ Pride time, and it's time for the good news. First of all, yes, things have gotten so much better, and really so quickly for those of us lucky enough to live in progressive parts of the world. There is so much difference. It's a different universe, being LGBTQ in the northeastern United States in 2022, even from the way it was in 1990. So much better. For anyone here in this room or online who came out as LGBTQ before 1990, honestly, you are my hero, and I thank you from the bottom of my heart. You should be proud of your bravery. And for all of you who worked to further LGBTQ rights and acceptance over the years, whether you yourself are LGBTQ or whether you are a straight or cisgender ally, I thank you from the bottom of my heart, too. For all of you who worked to make this a welcoming congregation more than a quarter of a century ago, for all of you who worked to make same-sex marriage here in Massachusetts the first state to do it, you should be proud, too. I'm also proud this morning because for every psychic mark and bit of spiritual damage that LGBTQ folks carry from our experiences, there's a corresponding spiritual strength and depth. LGBTQ folks have learned deep down that it's okay to be different. We've internalized the spirituality of beauty in diversity. The universe is vast. We are not all meant to meant puny lives circumscribed by puny and arbitrary rules. We are here in part to be who we are, to be the best version of who we really are, helping others to be the best versions of who they really are. It sounds easy, but it's actually sort of scary. LGBTQ folks who are able to live out and open lives have taken a huge step in that direction. LGBTQ folks who have looked at life from both sides now, to borrow from Joni Mitchell. We have looked at life from both sides now. That is, for many of us, certainly for many of us of a certain age, we have tried to do it the straight, cis way to differing degrees. We tried to be cisgender or gender conforming at least a little bit, at least as much as we could, at least for a little while. We tried to do the opposite sex dating thing, many of us, at least for a while. Some of us even tried to make the heterosexual traditional marriage work, at least for a while. We might not know what it's like to be truly straight or cisgender or what have you, but we have lived among you and we know your strange ways. And not too many of you have tried our strange ways. And so we have a certain breadth of experience. I think this, along with knowing what it is to go through trauma and hard times, can result, in some cases, in extra layers of empathy for the human experience. And deep empathy is a spiritual gift. Related to this, I think LGBTQ folk also have the spiritual gift of knowing that boundaries are never so firm as we imagine with all of our socially constructed categories. We live the spirituality of yin-yang from Taoism. We know that everything contains a bit of its own opposite. And finally, to the extent that lesbian, gay, and bisexual folks transgress gender norms, along with our trans and non-binary siblings, we uniquely embody the divine. That is, one of the problematic things about the term God is that it implies male. It usually goes with he, him, his pronouns. Sometimes people use goddess to emphasize female, go with she, her, hers pronouns. But I'm pretty sure the divine is beyond gender, and really too grand for any of those pronouns. And really, the only fitting pronoun I can think of for the divine is they. They, their, theirs. And we can thank our non-binary friends for helping us to learn this language and concept. In the end, LGBTQ liberation is for everyone, including straight and cisgender people. LGBTQ liberation means that you are who you are. And those lines can shift because, after all, those lines are just social constructs. Be free. Be yourself. Love yourself. Love diversity. Don't let society's arbitrary notions of gender norms and sexuality norms and norms for what a family is circumscribe your life. Be your beautiful, best, truest self. You are who you are. You are your own special creation. Don't let anyone ever tell you you are anything less than beautiful and whole. Blessed be, and amen. Our closing hymn is number 1053 in the blue hymnal, How Could Anyone?
How
For our closing words, I invite you, if you wish, to put your hands out and feel the energy between us, connecting us, and those with us virtually as well. Beloved, you are beautiful in all your uniqueness. You are special and whole. Don't let anyone hold you back from being who you are. Keep doing your important work in this world to help others feel seen and heard and loved for being just who they are too. I am better for knowing you, for being a part of this community, and I thank you for all that you do for the LGBTQ community. Happy Pride. Please be seated.
It's my world, and I wanna have pride. My world. Don't you I don't want praise. I don't want praise. I hope from the faint noise. I think it's pretty. And so what if I love each feather and each spangle? Why not this place of a different your I stand till down how I and what I need my own day. Sometimes yes, sometimes yes. There's one night and there's no us. One night so it's time. Open up your heart, my son, and say, and what I am. Oh, I
Thank you.